Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Films and Stuff. I'm Ethan, joined by Pete. Pete, what do we got today?
Today, we are talking about our usual weekly episode of Stream or Skip.
Stream or Skip. You want to rehash the rules for those of us who have not heard them?
Absolutely. And if you haven't heard them, go back. Here are other episodes. But Ethan has provided a list of TV shows he'd like me to watch. I have provided him with a list of shows I'd like him to watch. Every week, we randomly assign each other one TV show. We watch at least 2 episodes from that series. And on that basis, we determine if that series is worth streaming or skipping.
And the purpose behind this is that if you're like us, you log into Netflix or Disney Plus or Apple TV Plus, you see a bunch of stuff and you're not really sure what is worth your time. We're trying to give you the idea of whether or not it's worth streaming or skipping. And the hope is we introduce you to a golden nugget, diamond in the rough. You know what we mean? And this week we were successful, Pete. We were successful. I can't speak for you, but I can speak for myself, if you don't mind. I was assigned The Night Agent on Netflix, and it's something that I have seen in my feed a few times. I recognize the name, didn't recognize any of the characters, and to be honest, it didn't really look good or bad, right? It just seemed like something that I would maybe be interested in, but I never really had enough motivation to try it. I watched it. It's 10 episodes long. It's been renewed for season 2. And I can tell you, I cannot wait. I binged season 1. All 10 episodes knocked out. The first episode was pretty down the middle, I have to say. If I would have stopped at 1 episode, it'd be a solid kind of like mooch. It was after the second episode that I really started to get into it. And by like 3, by 4, I was like, I can't stop. Like, I cannot stop. I think I finished it in 3 days. I did episode 1, and then I think I did 2, 3, 4. And then, I know, I did 5 through 10. It was fantastic.
So for context, listeners, Ethan sent me a message after he watched the first episode and said, yeah, this looks like it's pretty good. It looks like a pretty average show. It's absolutely fine. I said, okay, yeah. I'll wait for your final review before I determine if I should start it immediately or if I should wait for a little later. Yeah. And less than 24 hours later, he was 6 episodes in, and he said, This is a must subscribe. Sorry, I blew the load there.
No. Thank you. It is a must subscribe. Let me give you a little bit of context without giving away any spoilers or secrets. It is about a special program at the White House commissioned by the president called the Night Action Program. And if you're an agent in the Night Action Program, you're considered a night agent, and they get very specific, secretive assignments from the president. And this one deals with a guy who has just been assigned to answer the phone to take any incoming issues from night agents, and he gets pulled into this far-ranging, kind of typical conspiracy. I think this one is innovative, and it's very enjoyable to watch it play out. But if you've been a fan of a lot of different kind of spy shows or political thrillers, you'll appreciate that this one is probably a little bit more intricate and better than most. But definitely it's not like reinventing the wheel by any means. The characters are all very, very likable. Even the villains are a little bit compelling. And it's nice that the good guys you kind of cheer for and the bad guys you kind of cheer against. And that, I think, is a very comfortable place to be in. There's nothing I find more dissonant than when you've got a good guy that you don't really like them and you're not really cheering for them, even though you're supposed to, or you've got a bad guy who you're a little bit sympathetic to, or you kind of want them to win, right? That's a very uncomfortable position to be in a show. You should be cheering for the good guys and cheering against the bad guys. That's just kind of the way that it works. And I think the Night Agent does a great job of that. Even though all the characters are compelling in their own way, even the bad guys, and just like every complex kind of conspiracy show, there's not just two sides, there's always more than two sides, right? Which makes it a little bit more spy against spy, double cross, and so forth. The story is very good. The action is very decent. The characters are all very compelling and likable. Plenty of twists. They're all kind of making sense. There's nothing that's like just crazy or out there that you can't really believe or get behind. Overall, and I read this somewhere else, that the Night Agent has actually turned into a huge hit for Netflix, completely unanticipated, actually. And this is one of those things that, I feel encourages Netflix to make not risky decisions, but bold decisions, is that sometimes they have a hit on their hands and they don't even know it, right? Night Agent did not receive a lot of fanfare compared to some of its other Extraction 2, for example, right?
Or Fubar.
Fubar, for example. If you watch Night Agent versus Fubar, if you would poll just 100 normal people, moms, brothers, boyfriends, girlfriends, just 100 people, say, which did you like better? I would expect it would be 75-25 Night Agent.
Really?
75-25, I think, would like Night Agent more.
Okay.
I think a few people will be like, oh, I love Arnold. He's so funny. But I think generally people would, if you watch both of them, like 4 episodes, and said, okay, you've got to watch 3 more episodes. Let's do it fine. You've watched 5 episodes. Okay, you've got to stay here and watch 5 more episodes, then you can go home. Which 5 do you want to watch? I bet it's going to be 90-10 would say, I'll watch Night Agent. Because I would think that of those people who've watched 5 episodes of Fubar, like, nah, I don't need to see more. I know it's going to end. Yeah, I've seen it. If you watch 5 episodes of Night Agent, you're like, no way. You're not sending me out of here. I've got to finish it. Show me those 5. Great cast, I have to say. They're all people that you've seen before, but haven't really seen before. Does that make sense? So, I mean, I went through IMDb, and a few of them are really, really interesting, what you've seen them in before. My favorite one is the lady who plays Diane Farr, Hong Chow, in this series. She has gray, almost white hair. Like they make her the opposite of de-aged. She looks like 60 years old, but she's actually quite young.
Yeah.
She was in The Whale
as
his kind of like caretaker.
That's right.
And I never would have recognized her with the hair. D.B. Woodside is in here. We've seen him in some things. It's a great cast. Not an A-list cast, but I bet a lot of them are going to be well on their way to A-list after they've been in this. It's gained a lot of momentum. Everyone's done an exceptional job. Highly, highly recommend The Night Agent. It's a must subscribe, in my opinion. It's on Netflix. Season 2 has been renewed, but since this is so new, it's going to take quite some time.
You've got me hook, line, and sinker. I am very interested, and I will probably start it this week.
Can you keep the momentum going? Are we 2 for 2 this week? What do you have?
Probably not, unfortunately. I had The Full Monty.
Okay.
Now, The Full Monty, if you'll remember, was a movie that came out in 1997, same name.
Yep.
And the premise of that film was a steel mill had shut down. You're in northern England, I think. And you've got a bunch of young men who are basically broke. And they're looking for jobs, and they're looking for opportunities to make whatever money that they can, however that they can. And so effectively, they decide to do a male strip show to raise money.
Okay.
And one of the things that they decide that they're going to do is that they're going to go the full Monty, i.e. fully nude.
Okay.
It was an iconic movie. I think one of the first like pseudo-independent, low-budget British movies. along the same vein as Train Spotting.
Oh yeah, I remember that movie.
Hold on a second. I'm going to just let her out.
Listeners, Pete has a new dog. It is a husky, and it is trying to understand its place in the world. Everything is new because it's a newborn dog, so it's still learning how to eat, how to sleep, how to socialize. Everything's new when you're a newborn dog. Pete has a lot of maternal instinct in him, so I'm sure he'll be fine. Or he won't. One way or the other, we'll find out soon. The dog may also train Pete, not to be underestimated.
Sorry, where was I? Train Spotting?
I saw Train Spotting. That's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, so it was in that same vein, low budget, high quality, great storyline, and then it became kind of like a cult hit.
Okay.
In any case, so going back to this show, so this show is like a direct sequel of that movie. It takes place 26 years later, and we get to see most of the same gang. Not everyone is there, but I think more or less the main guys are in there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Everyone is navigating getting older, right? Because now everyone's like 26, 30 years older. They're all in, again, the same city, not impoverished, not poor, but at the same time struggling for money. Everyone's kind of doing odd jobs, that kind of thing. It's clearly a show where they're talking about these guys having limited wealth. The main character has 2 children from 2 different women, and he's really a bad dad. Then you learn that the other main characters, like one's in a loveless marriage, she's having an affair. All these little things, we get to see a highlight of these characters, right? And the lives that they're leading. But ultimately, what this show does is that it's not about these guys. It's effectively a spotlight on the shortfalls in British society today.
Okay.
Right? So
political commentary.
It's a socio-political commentary. That's exactly right. We see issues with the crumbling infrastructure, an overburdened healthcare system, low benefits, high unemployment, a struggling school system, that sort of thing, right? So we're talking like the whole show is effectively like a message about what the on-ground reality is like for a lot of working class British people. Okay. Yeah, because I think a lot of people in Europe, a lot of people in America, a lot of people around the world, when they think of Britain, they really only think of London.
Right.
And London is not representative of the country. It's just like when you think of America, you cannot compare all of America to New York or to Chicago or to Los Angeles. It's not an appropriate comparison for your average Joe in the middle of Idaho. The experience that you're going to have as a New York banker is in no way similar to what your average person is going through in the middle of the country. Right. And that's what this show does a really good job of, is to say, hey, we may be in England, but we still have these kinds of problems. And like one of the characters passes away, and he passes away because, he basically is being denied benefits, and because the healthcare system can't look after him forever. And so, at the funeral, they're talking about how it's unbelievable that in this day and age in Great Britain that someone could die effectively of hunger.
Well, that's terrible.
Right? It's a terrible thing.
This is a series?
It is a series.
Was the Full Monty originally a series or a movie?
It was a movie.
Okay.
I think it's 8 episodes in all. It might be 10. It gets a little complicated here. The show was developed by FX. It was broadcast, or it was dropped on Hulu in the US, but it's Disney Plus everywhere else.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. We've been talking about this for months now, but this is another mess that Disney is going to have to clean. At some point, they're going to have to clean up this mess, because it's not a tenable situation that the same content is being offered on 2 different platforms owned by the same company in 2 different geographies.
Who owns FX?
So FX was a part of Fox, which is now a part of Disney.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Look, it's a great show. It's really lovely seeing the gang back together again. I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was great. It's a solid mooch. I would not say you need to subscribe to Hulu or to Disney Plus to watch this show. It is great, don't get me wrong, but it's a low priority watch.
Well, that's why we do Streamer Skip, to find out what are the diamonds in the rough, like The Night Agent, must watch.
Yep.
And what are the lesser priorities, like the full Monty?
Yeah, exactly. And again, you're not going to feel like you wasted your time. I don't want to make it sound like that when we call it a mooch. It is still worth watching, but take your time with it, borrow someone's password. You'll have a good time watching it.
All right. What are the assignments for next week? And then let's go into some housekeeping.
Okay. So
not literally.
Next week, you are staying on Netflix and you will be watching The Black Knight.
Oh, The Black Knight?
Yeah, it's a foreign language show.
Sounds like Batman.
Indeed, but it's not.
Dark Knight.
I won't even tell you just because I want you to go in completely blank.
Got it.
And I will be watching actually our first feature-length program, not series. I'll be watching Still on Apple TV Plus.
Oh, Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, it's the Michael J. Fox documentary.
All right, that's great.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about that. I've been wanting to watch it. I saw that it was on my list, so I've held off on it. So I'm glad that I get to watch that now.
The underrated joke of The Flash comes back to me, where in that alternate universe, it's the other dude who was cast as Marty McFly in Back to the Future. I'll never forget that. Okay, so I've got The Black Knight, whatever that is, and you've got Still on Apple TV Plus. Now, onto some housekeeping. Have you, or have you not, watched Extraction and Extraction 2?
Unfortunately, I have not had time to watch Extraction 1 or 2. And as our listeners may be interested in knowing, I just got a puppy. So all entertainment in my life has been sidelined until I can kind of get her on her own 4 feet.
On the next episode of Films and Puppies. Okay. On another note, have you had time to watch Secret Invasion? And if so, can you please explain to me what in God's green earth is going on with this?
I have watched Secret Invasion. In fact, I am up to date. There's only been 2 episodes so far, so it's quite easy to catch up on it.
2 of 6. Seasons are getting shorter and shorter until there'll be 1 episode, and we'll call them movies.
But having said that, I like that they have the guts to say we don't have enough content to make 10 episodes out of it or 12 episodes out of it. So let's just make it 6. It's the right move because, we've got so many Marvel shows that you don't want to fill those shows with fluff. You need them to be high impact, and you can't be high impact if they're filled with dead weight. So I'm okay with the fact that this is only 6 episodes or whatever it's going to finally be. So Secret Invasion is this great take on, this has been a long time, but I read the comics a long time ago. It's based on the Skrull invasion on Earth.
Okay. So Skrulls are, you're going to say something, and I'm going to translate it for someone who doesn't really understand what's going on.
Sure.
Can you tell me if I've got it right?
Yeah.
There's an alien race called Skrulls. They're kind of green, human-shaped aliens, and they can take on the form of whatever human they see, kind of like a transformer. Accurate?
Yes, they can shapeshift.
Okay. So if a Skrull comes to Earth, it sees me, it can kill me, it can take on my shape, right?
Yes, that's right. It doesn't need to kill you to do it.
Okay. So when did this invasion take place? I understand it's kind of been like a long-standing thing. Is that right?
So, yeah, we need to give you a little bit of context. So the Skrulls were introduced to the MCU in the Captain Marvel movie with Brie Larson.
Right.
And effectively, the Skrulls as a species are basically homeless in the sense that Their home was destroyed, and they're looking for a new place to call home. And that's why at the end of Captain Marvel, we see Brie Larson leave. She makes it her mission to help them find a new home planet.
Okay.
The Captain Marvel movie takes place in the 90s.
Right.
In the following 30 odd years, the Skrulls have all come to Earth, and they've been kind of putting themselves into society as hidden people.
They're just living their life, right?
They're just living their life. They're just trying to live a peaceful life. And as you'd expect, some members of the Skrull Society want to have their own planet, so much so that they create what's effectively a new terrorist cell. And their goal is to eliminate humans from Earth so that they can claim Earth as their own planet.
They're not happy with just like their own country or a continent. They need the whole thing.
They need the whole thing. That's the goal these guys want, is they want their own home world. They believe that the humans reneged on their promise to help them find a new home world. And so this terrorist group is trying to take over. And they're doing so by infiltrating, high society, infiltrating politics, etc. And they're taking over powerful people. And that is the premise of the show Secret Invasion, because it is an invasion. And it's secret because we don't know who's a Skrull and who isn't.
Okay. So Nick Fury is back. He's friends with Talos, and Talos is a good Skrull, right?
That's right. He gets introduced to us in the movie as well. He's played by Ben Mendelsohn, and he's actually a good guy.
Is he in Captain Marvel?
He's in Captain Marvel, yeah.
All right. Kobe Smulders is back as Maria Hill. Love her. Olivia Colman, which is kind of like the British equivalent of Nick Fury. Is that right?
Kinda, not quite, but yes.
And she's like a little bit more aggressive towards the Skrulls. Is that correct?
To be determined. We haven't seen much of her.
And then Amelia Clark.
She plays the Skrull.
Daughter of Talos. So she's kind of like in the terrorist type Skrull group.
That's
maybe,
right?
Okay.
That's right.
Were you impressed? You watched the first 2 episodes. I watched the first one. After the first one, I was a little bit confused, but also not really like intrigued by what seems to be kind of like political fighting mostly, right?
This looks like it's going to be, I hesitate to use the word classic, but it looks like it's going to be a political espionage type show.
Yeah.
I don't expect to see lots of like shooting. I don't expect to see lots of action sequences. Obviously we will, because it's still a superhero show at the end of the day. But
Right.
in the sense that I think the appeal is going to be a little bit more political in nature. We see the machinations, we see the double crosses, the triple crosses, sleeper agents, that kind of thing. I think it's going to be more of a suspense show than it is going to be anything else.
What's your impression so far?
So 2 episodes in, if it's 6 episodes, then this would theoretically be the point of where the first act is ended. It's fine so far. If I'm going to rate it right now, it's still a mooch. It's not done anything in the show that's made me go, oh my God, Ethan, stop what you're doing. You have to watch this.
It's strange. I take your point at the beginning, which is, I would rather have a 6-episode season than not have a season at all, right? If you say, like, look, there's just not enough content, this is a limited story, that's totally okay, right? That's why you buy a subscription, because you're not paying on a per episode basis. But it's also difficult if you're only going to have 6 episodes. You're 2 episodes in, and you're kind of like, nothing really is really happening. What kind of story do you have to tell? I would expect that if you're going to do 6 episodes, I understand the first one is context and background, setting the stage. 2 should be pretty good, though, if you really want people to stick around for another 4.
And in principle, I agree with that assessment. I think you're absolutely right, is that there should have been some hook that makes you go, whoa. And there kind of is at the end of the first episode, right? When you see...
the explosions.
Yeah. But it's not compelling yet. I think that explosion has got me intrigued, and certainly if by the end of the third or fourth I still feel this way, then that's Marvel dropping the ball.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have such a high bar, primarily because of what we've seen on like Amazon Prime, right? We've seen Rings of Power, which was pretty floppish.
Yeah.
We've seen Citadel, which is pretty floppish.
Yeah.
And if this was a longer season, I'm not sure if we would put in like the emotional effort to be like, okay, let's tune in this week, right? Because they're not dropping these as 6. They're dropping these week by week, right? Like I watched Silo on Apple TV Plus. I'm excited to watch when Silo drops on a Friday.
Yeah.
If you're not going to have Secret Invasion be compelling, it's hard to get people excited about the next episode. It's hard to like build any momentum for it. You've got to have a story worth telling.
I think you're absolutely right. And case in point, Secret Invasion episode 1 dropped. I watched it on the first day. Secret Invasion episode 2 dropped on Wednesday. I watched it 2 days later.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that I could set on my phone as a reminder that, hey, you got to make sure that you download it on your iPad or it's on your must-watch list so that you can immediately watch it. It is not that case. Yeah. Whereas, you're absolutely right. Silo dropped this morning. I finished it first thing this morning.
That's everything we have to say about Secret Invasion. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's only 6 episodes. 2 have dropped. But I mean, my sense is that I'm really indifferent about it. And part of it is maybe I'm a little bit indifferent about Samuel L. Jackson. We've kind of seen him in a lot of stuff as Nick Fury. Maybe he's kind of run his course and we need like a little bit of a new blood, right? Like these folks have been around in these roles for like a good 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Like Samuel L. Jackson was an amazing Nick Fury. Amazing, right? But there's also a time when you've kind of like outlived the freshness of your role. I'm happy that they brought Emilia Clarke in. I think that's a very good, like, fresh blood into this thing. So I think you could have Nick Fury in the background. You can have Smulders in the background. You know, like, there's just a way to kind of keep these things fresh a little bit. And I'm not sure if Marvel is doing that.
I get your point, and I think it's also because he's played support characters in previous movies. He's not been the focal point in any of the movies. He's always like the director. He's the guy who's kind of tells them what to do and where to go, the mission leader, right? And in this, now we're starting to see a political drama with intrigue and espionage, and he's the lead. So I think it's an adjustment that people are going to have to make, that this is a superhero show starring a guy who's not a superhero.
Right.
That is where there's probably a little bit of dissonance coming in for you. I would suggest that this has the potential to be a must subscribe. It's just not there yet in terms of on paper, because a good political thriller, man, like nothing beats a really good political thriller. You remember that movie with Robert Redford and Brad Pitt?
Spy Game.
Where Robert Redford teaches Brad Pitt to be an agent.
And he breaks him out of the Chinese prison?
Yeah, but while he's doing that, a spy movie where he has to pull Brad Pitt out of that jail, but he was using CIA assets to do so, and he had to hide the CIA.
Yes.
It was so brilliantly executed, right? In the sense that that was not a movie about action sequences whatsoever. It was a high drama, but it was a political drama. It was a thriller.
We should watch that movie again and review it, because that is an unsung classic, right?
Absolutely.
I will still watch Secret Invasion the way that you talk about it and the way that I saw episode 1. I just was not really feeling it. The stakes are actually very high. And you could explain it another way. And we've seen this in a lot of different other like shows and movies throughout history, right? An alien race came to Earth. They have the ability to take the shape of aliens. It actually sounds a lot like Blade Runner. You can't tell who's an alien and who's real. The aliens are not happy. They're going to plot to take over Earth. There's some aliens who love humans and they're on the side of humans. Humans are having a disagreement. Should they negotiate a diplomatic solution to this, or should they just wage war and try to wipe them out? That's the premise, right?
Right.
So the stakes are actually very, very high.
I'm hoping it's really good. I'm hoping that it picks it up a notch. I will say the second episode was probably better than the first, but it's still not quite there yet for me.
Okay, everyone, that's it. We are finished with Stream or Skip. I had The Night Agent, must subscribe. Pete had the full Monty reboot, and it's a solid ooch. Next week, I've got The Black Knight. Sounds spooky. Pete has still Michael J. Fox on Apple TV Plus. Pete, if people want to comment on our Stream or Skip ratings, where would they do so?
If you think you have a show that you would recommend we watch for you because you don't have time, we're happy to do it. Reach out to us. You can tweet at us at FNS Podcast. You can DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast. You can email us aloha@filmsandstuffpodcast.com, or the most easy, the fastest, the bestest way of getting in touch with us is liking this video and leaving a comment and subscribing to our channel and hitting that notification bell so that you know when a new episode drops.
Do them all. No exceptions.
But until then...
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Pete, thank you. And we will see you all next week. Films and Stuff.
Thanks, Ethan.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.